The massive alien ships appeared without warning above Earth's skies, their dark hulls blocking out the sun across major cities. Captain James Mitchell stood at the window of the orbital defense station, watching the enormous vessels arrange themselves in perfect formation. Each ship was the size of a mountain and there were hundreds of them. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," called out Lieutenant Emma Brooks from her console. Her voice was steady, but Mitchell could hear the tension underneath. "It's coming through on all frequencies at once." The communication screen flickered to life, showing a creature that looked nothing like a human. It stood nearly 10 feet tall, with gray skin that seemed to shimmer under harsh lighting. Its eyes were completely black, and when it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "People of Earth," the alien commander began, the words automatically translated by Earth's computers. "I am High Commander Thane of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our empire." Mitchell felt his crew shift nervously around him. Major Robert Hayes stepped closer to the captain, his hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm. But Mitchell remained perfectly calm, almost relaxed. The alien continued speaking. "You have exactly 72 hours to surrender completely. All military forces must stand down. All governments must transfer power to our administrators. Any resistance will result in the total destruction of your species." Lieutenant Brooks looked up at Mitchell with wide eyes. "Sir, they're broadcasting this message to every television, radio, and internet connection on the planet. Everyone can hear this." "Good," Mitchell said quietly, surprising his crew. "Let them listen." High Commander Thane's image dominated the screen as he delivered the rest of his ultimatum. "Do not mistake this for a negotiation. We have conquered 847 worlds. We have destroyed entire civilizations that refuse to submit. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. Your military technology is thousands of years behind ours." The alien gestured and the screen showed images of other worlds. Beautiful planets reduced to burning ruins. Cities that had been turned to glass. Entire populations that had simply vanished. "This is the fate that awaits those who resist the hegemony," Thane said. "We give you this warning only once. Surrender now and your people will be allowed to live as servants. Resist, and you will join the countless other species that chose extinction over wisdom." Major Hayes leaned toward Mitchell. "Sir, what are your orders? Should we alert Earth Defense Command?" Mitchell held up a hand for silence. He was still watching the alien commander with that strange, calm expression. Around the orbital station, other crew members were checking weapons systems and defensive protocols. The standard response to this kind of threat would be to prepare for battle, to mobilize every available ship and soldier. But Mitchell did something different. He walked to the communication console and pressed the transmit button. "This is Captain James Mitchell of the Earth Defense Station Alpha 7. I'm responding on behalf of the people of Earth." High Commander Thane's black eyes focused on the screen as Mitchell's image appeared on alien displays throughout the enemy fleet. The human captain looked completely unimpressed by the massive show of force surrounding his tiny planet. "Your ultimatum is received and understood," Mitchell said calmly. "However, before you begin your countdown, there's something you should know about humanity." The alien commander tilted his head slightly, clearly not expecting this kind of response. In his 50,000 years of conquest, species typically responded with either immediate surrender or desperate pleas for mercy. They didn't respond with calm confidence. Mitchell smiled, and it wasn't a friendly expression. "You see, Commander Thane, we've been monitoring your expansion for quite some time. We've watched you destroy world after world, and we've learned from every single conquest you've made." Lieutenant Brooks stared at her captain in shock. This wasn't in any of their emergency protocols. Major Hayes looked like he wanted to interrupt, but something in Mitchell's demeanor kept him silent. "You mentioned that you've conquered 847 worlds," Mitchell continued. "What you don't realize is that we've been preparing for this meeting for the last 80 years. We've studied every battle you've fought. We know your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses." High Commander Thane's expression shifted slightly. For the first time since beginning his ultimatum, he looked uncertain. Mitchell's smile grew wider. "You've spent 50,000 years conquering species that were caught off guard. Species that had to improvise their defenses after you arrived. But humanity has had 8 decades to prepare specifically for you." The captain gestured toward the viewport, where Earth hung like a blue marble beneath them. "Every other world you attacked was fighting for survival. We're not fighting for survival, Commander. We're fighting because we've been waiting for someone to finally give us a good reason to show the galaxy what humans are really capable of." The alien commander straightened, his imposing figure suddenly seeming less certain. You cannot possibly believe that your primitive world can stand against the combined might of the hegemony. Primitive? Mitchell laughed, a sound that seemed to unnerve the alien. Commander, you're looking at exactly what we want you to see. For 80 years, we've made sure that anyone watching Earth would think we were just another helpless little world. He leaned forward, his eyes meeting the aliens through the screen. But the truth is, we've been waiting for someone to push us this far. Someone to give us a real challenge. Someone to make it worth revealing what we've really been building all this time. The transmission ended, leaving High Commander Thane staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew exchanged uncertain glances. In all their years of conquest, they had never encountered a response quite like this. The countdown began. 72 hours until humanity would either surrender or face annihilation. But for the first time in the hegemony's long history of conquest, they began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. Admiral William Carter walked through the underground tunnels that stretched for miles beneath the Colorado mountains. The facility was so deep that even the most powerful alien sensors couldn't detect it. He had been living in these tunnels for the past 3 days, coordinating humanity's response to the ultimatum. "Sir, the evacuation reports are coming in," said Colonel Susan Palmer, matching his quick pace through the corridor. Her tablet showed green lights across most of the world map. 94% of all children are now in the deep shelters. The remaining 6% will be secured within the next 4 hours. Carter nodded but didn't slow down. Above them, 3 miles of solid rock separated the command center from the surface world. To anyone watching from space, Earth looked completely normal. People went to work, traffic moved through the streets, and life appeared to continue as usual. But that was exactly what they wanted the aliens to see. "What about our friends upstairs?" Carter asked as they entered the main command room. The space was enormous, filled with hundreds of workstations and massive displays showing every corner of the solar system. "The hegemony scouts are still sending down surveillance drones," reported Commander Thomas Wright from his intelligence station. "They're mapping our cities, counting our military bases, analyzing our technology. But they're only seeing what we've prepared for them to see." Dr. Helen Anderson approached from the research section, her white coat wrinkled from days of continuous work. She had been one of the original scientists who detected the hegemony's expansion pattern 80 years ago. Now, as an old woman, she was finally seeing her life's work put to the test. "The lunar installations report all systems ready," she said, consulting her own tablet. "The Mars colonies confirm their defensive grid is online. The asteroid belt mining stations have completed their transformation." Carter smiled at that last part. The aliens probably thought those were just ordinary mining operations scattered throughout the asteroid belt. They had no idea that each mining station was actually a heavily armed fortress, positioned perfectly to attack any fleet that entered the inner solar system. Lieutenant David Thompson called out from the communications center. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from the surface observation teams. The aliens seem confused by what they're seeing." "Confused how?" Carter asked, walking over to Thompson's station. "Well, sir, they're watching our cities but they can't figure out why people aren't panicking. They intercepted some of our television broadcasts, and apparently they're puzzled by the fact that the news is reporting the ultimatum as if it's just another story." Carter laughed quietly. That had been part of the plan too. For 80 years, Earth's governments had prepared their populations for this day. Every child grew up knowing about the hegemony. Every adult understood that someday the aliens would come. When the ultimatum finally arrived, people weren't panicking because they had been expecting it their entire lives. "Sir, incoming report from General Patricia Wells at Luna Base," announced another technician. Carter accepted the transmission. General Wells appeared on the screen, standing in what looked like a normal research facility. Behind her, Carter could see scientists in white coats working at various machines. "Admiral, the lunar defense grid is fully operational," Wells reported. "The aliens sent 3 scout ships to examine our moon yesterday. They spent 6 hours scanning our facilities and concluded that we have a small scientific research station up here." "Perfect," Carter said. "They have no idea you're sitting on top of enough firepower to destroy their entire advanced fleet." Wells grinned. "The best part is that they actually complimented our primitive lunar technology in one of their intercepted transmissions. They think our fusion reactors are quaint." Carter switched to another communication channel. "Commander Michael Foster, what's your status?" The screen changed to show a man in a military uniform standing inside what appeared to be a large spaceship. But Carter knew that Foster was actually aboard one of humanity's most advanced warships, currently hidden in the shadow of a large asteroid. "The Ghost Fleet is in position, sir," Foster reported. All 237 vessels are powered down and invisible to their scans. We've been watching their patrol patterns for the past 2 days. When you give the word, we can be on them before they know what hit them. Excellent. How long until you're fully ready? We've been ready for 20 years, sir, Foster said with a slight smile. We're just waiting for the party to start. Carter closed the communication and turned to address the entire command center. Hundreds of people stopped their work to listen to him. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast underground space. 68 hours and 15 minutes remain until the hegemony expects our surrender. Above us, they're watching our world and seeing exactly what we want them to see. A primitive planet with limited defenses and a population that doesn't understand the threat they're facing. He gestured toward the main display, which showed the positions of alien ships throughout the solar system. They've positioned their fleet exactly as our strategists predicted they would. They're using the same formation they've used on 847 other worlds. The same tactics that have never failed them. Dr. Anderson stepped forward. Admiral, the final analysis of their technology is complete. Every system they're using matches our predictions. Every weakness we identified over the past 80 years is confirmed. Carter nodded. Then we proceed as planned. Colonel Palmer, ensure that all surface installations are ready for rapid deployment. Commander Wright, I want continuous monitoring of their communications. The moment they detect anything unusual, I want to know about it. He looked around the room at the faces of people who had spent their entire careers preparing for this moment. Remember, everyone, we're not just defending Earth. We're conducting the final examination of everything humanity has learned about warfare in space. In 68 hours, we're going to find out if 80 years of preparation was enough. The countdown continued as Earth's secret preparations neared completion. Above them, the hegemony fleet waited patiently for humanity's surrender, completely unaware that they were about to face an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. The countdown reached 0 at exactly noon Greenwich time. High Commander Thane stood on the bridge of his flagship, expecting to receive Earth's surrender message. Instead, every screen on his ship suddenly activated without his permission. Captain James Mitchell's face appeared across the entire hegemony fleet's communication system. He was no longer on the small orbital station where he had first responded to the ultimatum. Now he stood in what looked like a massive underground command center, with hundreds of people working at stations behind him. Greetings, High Commander Thane, Mitchell said calmly. I hope you've enjoyed your stay in our solar system. I'm speaking to you from Earth Defense Command, located 3 miles beneath the surface of our planet. Thane's black eyes narrowed. His ships had scanned the entire planet and detected no such facility. Impossible. Our sensors would have found any installation of that size. Mitchell smiled. Your sensors found exactly what we wanted them to find. You see, Commander, we've spent 80 years studying how your technology works. We know the exact frequency ranges your scanners use. We know their limitations. And we've become very good at staying hidden. Deep beneath the Colorado mountains, Admiral Carter watched his tactical display come alive. Across the solar system, installations that had been invisible for decades suddenly began powering up. General Wells, you are authorized for Operation Sunrise, Carter said into his communicator. On the lunar surface, General Wells stood in what the aliens had thought was a small research station. Around her, walls began retracting into the ground, revealing massive weapon systems that had been concealed beneath fake laboratory equipment. Copy that, Admiral, Wells responded. Luna base is going active. The moon itself seemed to transform before the aliens' astonished eyes. What had appeared to be a few small buildings suddenly revealed themselves as the surface layer of an enormous military complex. Weapon platforms rose from hidden compartments. Shield generators hummed to life. The entire lunar surface became a single, massive fortress. Back on Earth, cities across the planet began their own transformation. In New York, skyscrapers retracted into the ground on hidden elevator systems, revealing towering defense towers that had been concealed within them. In London, the Thames River seemed to drain away as underwater installations rose to the surface, shedding their disguises. Commander Michael Foster, still hidden in the asteroid belt, received his orders. All units, this is Phoenix Base. Ghost Fleet is authorized to engage. Show them what we've been building. Throughout the asteroid belt, what the hegemony had assumed were mining operations suddenly came alive. The mining ships shed their outer hulls, revealing sleek warships unlike anything in the aliens' database. The ore processing facilities opened like flowers, exposing weapon systems that had been completely hidden from view. High Commander Thane watched in growing disbelief as his tactical displays filled with hundreds of human ships that simply hadn't existed moments before. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his crew. "Where did these vessels come from?" Captain Mitchell's voice continued broadcasting across all alien frequencies. "You're witnessing 80 years of preparation, Commander. While you conquered other worlds, we were learning from their mistakes. Every species you defeated taught us something valuable about how to fight you." On Mars, Colonel Richard Barnes oversaw the activation of the planet's defensive grid. The Red Planet had been colonized 50 years earlier, but the Hegemony scouts had dismissed it as a small research outpost. They had no idea that the entire colony had been designed as a military fortress. "Mars defense grid coming online," Barnes reported. "All orbital platforms are active and ready to engage." Dr. Helen Anderson, monitoring the aliens' communications from the Colorado Command Center, noted the panic in their transmissions. "Admiral, they're requesting emergency reinforcements. They're reporting impossible readings from all our installations." "Let them call for help," Carter replied. "We've been planning for their reinforcements too." Mitchell continued his broadcast, his calm voice a stark contrast to the chaos erupting across the alien fleet. "You mentioned earlier that you've conquered 847 worlds. What you don't understand is that each of those conquests gave us data. We studied every battle you fought. We analyzed every tactic you used. We identified every weakness in your technology. The human ships emerging from hiding weren't just numerous, they were completely different from anything the Hegemony had seen before. Instead of trying to copy alien technology, humanity had developed something entirely new. Their ships moved in patterns that made no sense to traditional space warfare doctrine." Commander Foster led the first wave of human ships as they closed on the alien fleet. "All squadrons remember your training. They've never faced tactics like ours because no one has ever had time to study them this thoroughly." The alien ships tried to respond with their standard defensive formations, but the humans weren't attacking in any recognizable pattern. Some ships came straight at them, while others seemed to be fleeing in random directions. It took the Hegemony several crucial minutes to realize that the seemingly chaotic movement was actually a carefully coordinated strategy. Captain Lisa Morgan, commanding one of the Outer System squadrons, watched as her predictions proved accurate. "Just as we calculated. They're trying to form a protective sphere around their command ships. That leaves their support vessels completely exposed." High Commander Thane finally understood what he was facing. This wasn't a desperate last stand by a primitive species. This was a carefully planned military operation by people who had spent decades preparing for this exact battle. Mitchell's final words echoed through the alien fleet. "You came here expecting to conquer another helpless world. Instead, you've given humanity exactly what we've been waiting for. Someone finally strong enough to make this interesting." The battle for Earth's solar system had begun, but it wasn't the battle the Hegemony had expected. For the first time in their 50,000-year history of conquest, they were the ones who were surprised. The first Hegemony ship to fall was one of their massive cruisers, destroyed by a weapon it never saw coming. Colonel Richard Barnes, commanding the Mars defense platforms, watched with satisfaction as his carefully planned attack succeeded perfectly. "Target destroyed," Barnes reported to Earth Command. "Their shields couldn't handle the focused particle beam. Just like we calculated." The alien fleet had expected Earth's defenses to attack their ships directly head-on, the way every other conquered species had fought. Instead, humanity had spent 80 years developing weapons specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in Hegemony technology. Captain Lisa Morgan led her squadron in a maneuver that made no sense to the alien commanders. Her ships appeared to be retreating in panic, flying away from the main battle. The Hegemony pursuit ships followed, thinking they were chasing frightened humans trying to escape. "Let them follow us into the trap," Morgan told her pilots over the communication channel. "Remember, we're not running away. We're leading them exactly where we want them." The alien ships chased Morgan's squadron straight into the asteroid belt, where Commander Michael Foster's hidden fleet was waiting. What the Hegemony thought was a pursuit became an ambush. "All units, execute hammer strike," Foster commanded. Dozens of human ships emerged from behind asteroids, surrounding the alien pursuit force. But instead of attacking immediately, they did something that confused the enemy even more. They began transmitting data to each other, sharing information about the alien ship's performance in real time. Dr. Helen Anderson, monitoring the battle from the underground command center, was amazed by what she saw. "Admiral, they're treating this like a live testing exercise. Every engagement is providing new data about Hegemony technology." Admiral Carter smiled grimly. "That's exactly what this is, Doctor. We've been building weapons to fight these aliens for 80 years, but we never had a chance to test them in actual combat. Today, every battle teaches us something new. High Commander Thane watched his tactical displays in growing alarm as more of his ships fell to human attacks. The worst part wasn't losing the battles, it was how the humans fought them. They seemed almost excited by the challenge, as if they were enjoying themselves. "Sir, the humans are using weapons we've never seen before," reported his tactical officer. "Every time we adapt to one attack, they switch to something completely different." General Patricia Wells, commanding the Lunar Defense Grid, was having the time of her life. For 20 years, she had studied theoretical battles against the hegemony. Now she was finally putting her theories to the test. "Launch the hunter-killer drones," she ordered. "Let's see how they handle a swarm attack." Thousands of small, fast-moving drones launched from the lunar surface, each one programmed with decades of research about hegemony ship designs. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but there were too many, and they moved in unpredictable patterns. "They can't target all of them," Wells observed with satisfaction. "Their defensive systems are designed to handle direct attacks from large ships, not swarm tactics from small, coordinated units." The drones reached the alien fleet and began attaching themselves to ship hulls. Instead of exploding immediately, they started transmitting detailed scans of the hegemony vessels back to human command centers. Major Sarah Johnson, aboard the flagship of Earth's main battle fleet, received the scan data and smiled. "Perfect. Now we know exactly where their weak spots are. All ships, target the points marked in red on your displays." The human fleet opened fire with unprecedented accuracy. Instead of the random, desperate attacks the hegemony was used to facing, every shot was precisely aimed at the most vulnerable parts of their ships. Commander Thomas Wright, monitoring alien communications from the Colorado Command Center, started laughing as he listened to the enemy transmissions. "Admiral, you need to hear this. The hegemony commanders are reporting that humanity appears to be treating this battle as some kind of military exercise." Carter listened to the translated alien communications and nodded. "They're not wrong. We've spent 80 years preparing for this fight. Every engagement is a chance to test weapons and tactics we've only used in simulations." The battle continued for hours, but it became clear that momentum had shifted completely. The hegemony fleet, which had arrived expecting quick victory, found itself being systematically dismantled by an enemy that seemed to know their every weakness. Captain Mitchell, coordinating the overall battle from Earth Command, opened a communication channel to the alien flagship. "High Commander Thane, I thought you might be interested to know that this battle is being broadcast to every human colony in the solar system. Our children are watching from the deep shelters, learning about space warfare from actual combat." Thane's image appeared on screen, his confident demeanor completely gone. "This is impossible. No species has ever developed such advanced military technology without our knowledge." "That's because no other species has had 80 years to prepare specifically for fighting you," Mitchell replied. "Every world you conquered gave us more information about your methods. Every battle you fought taught us how to defeat you." The tide of battle turned completely when hegemony reinforcements arrived from deep space, only to discover that humanity had been expecting them too. Long-range sensors that had been hidden throughout the outer solar system had detected their approach days earlier. Commander Foster, now leading a combined fleet of human vessels, moved to intercept the reinforcements. "All units deploy the special packages. Time to show them what we've really been working on." The new hegemony ships entered the solar system expecting to overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer numbers. Instead, they flew directly into a trap that had been prepared specifically for reinforcements. For the first time in 50,000 years of conquest, the galactic hegemony was retreating. Their ships fled toward the edge of the solar system, leaving behind wreckage and the bitter knowledge that they had finally encountered a species that was stronger than they were. 3 months after the battle, Admiral William Carter stood before the largest gathering in human history. The United Earth Assembly had expanded to include representatives not just from Earth, but from every human colony in the solar system. Behind him, a massive display showed a map of the galaxy that looked very different from the one they had known before. "The victory at Sol has changed everything," Carter announced to the packed auditorium. "What we thought would be a fight for survival has become something much bigger. We didn't just defend our world. We started a revolution." The display showed hundreds of star systems, each marked with different colored lights. Green lights indicated worlds that had successfully rebelled against the hegemony. Red lights showed systems where fighting was still ongoing. Yellow lights marked worlds that had requested Earth's help to gain their freedom. Captain James Mitchell, now promoted to Admiral, addressed the assembly from the newly established forward command station orbiting Jupiter. The technology we used to defeat the hegemony has been transmitted to resistance movements across the galaxy. Worlds that have been enslaved for thousands of years are finally fighting back. Dr. Helen Anderson, now in her 90s but still sharp as ever, stepped forward to explain the scientific impact. The weapons we developed over 80 years of preparation are being manufactured on 463 different worlds. Each planet is adapting our designs to work with their own technology and resources. The old scientist smiled as she continued. More importantly, we've established communication networks with species we never knew existed. The hegemony had kept their conquered worlds isolated from each other. Now, for the first time in 50,000 years, these civilizations are talking to each other. General Patricia Wells, speaking from the lunar base that had become humanity's main military headquarters, provided the latest military updates. Former hegemony worlds aren't just rebelling, they're winning. The same tactics that worked here at Sol are being used successfully throughout the galaxy. She gestured toward the tactical displays around her. The hegemony's main weakness was that they used the same methods everywhere. Once we figured out how to beat those methods, any species could use our strategies to defeat them. Commander Michael Foster, now leading the 1st Liberation Fleet, transmitted his report from the outer edges of the solar system. We've received over 2,000 requests for assistance from worlds attempting to break free from hegemony control. Our ships are helping coordinate rebellions in 16 different star systems. The assembly listened in amazement as Foster described battles taking place hundreds of light years away. The strangest part is that many of these species are more advanced than we are in some ways. They had the technology to fight the hegemony, but they never had the strategy. We gave them the missing piece. Colonel Susan Palmer read from the latest intelligence reports. The hegemony's core territory has shrunk by 60% in just 3 months. Their remaining forces have retreated to their original homeworld and a handful of nearby systems. Our analysis suggests they're facing civil war as different factions blame each other for the defeat. Admiral Carter called for the Assembly's attention as he prepared to deliver the most important part of his address. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 months ago we were a single planet preparing to defend ourselves against a galactic empire. Today we find ourselves at the center of the largest liberation movement in galactic history. The display behind him changed to show communication networks spreading across the galaxy like a web of light. Every day we receive messages from species we've never heard of, thanking humanity for showing them that the hegemony could be defeated. They're calling us the species that broke the chains. Dr. Anderson stepped forward again, her voice filled with emotion. When I was a young scientist and we first detected the hegemony's expansion, I thought we were discovering the end of the world. I never imagined we were actually discovering our destiny. Captain Lisa Morgan, now commanding the 2nd Liberation Fleet, provided an update from the front lines. The most remarkable thing is how quickly former enemies are becoming allies. Species that fought each other for the hegemony's entertainment are now working together to build new governments based on cooperation instead of conquest. Admiral Carter looked out at the assembly, seeing faces filled with wonder and pride. Our ancestors looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone in the universe. Now we know we weren't alone, and we know something even more important. We weren't the victims waiting to be conquered. We were the liberators the galaxy had been waiting for. He gestured toward the galactic map one final time. The hegemony spent 50,000 years building an empire based on fear and domination. In 3 months we've helped tear that empire apart and replace it with something better. Free worlds, working together by choice instead of being forced together by conquest. Major Sarah Johnson, broadcasting from the flagship of the 3rd Liberation Fleet, delivered the final report. The galaxy will never be the same. Worlds that had forgotten what freedom meant are remembering. Species that had given up hope are building new futures. And at the center of it all is Earth, the planet that refused to surrender. Admiral Carter concluded his address with words that would be remembered throughout human history. 80 years ago, our predecessors made a choice. When they saw a threat approaching, they didn't run or hide. They decided to prepare. They decided to make humanity ready for the day when someone would push us too far. The assembly rose as one as Carter delivered his final statement. That day came 3 months ago. The hegemony thought they were conquering another helpless world. Instead, they discovered what happens when you threaten a species that has spent 8 decades preparing to fight back. They learned what it means to face humanity when we're finally given a worthy challenge. The cheers that erupted from the assembly echoed not just through the halls of Earth, but across communication networks that now connected thousands of worlds throughout the galaxy.